started then. Afternoon, everyone. So thank you for being here today, and I hope you're doing well. My name is Jonathan Liu. I am the commercial head of practice for data and AI within the wonderful Transferity Group. Today is a special day because I get to share this virtual stage with my colleague Luke Collins in the data team, and together we're here to dive into the world of Microsoft Fabrics and share some exciting insights with all of you. A bit of a background at Transferity. We wear our Microsoft partnership as a badge of honor. We're not just experts, we are enthusiasts when it comes to Microsoft technology, and committed to harnessing the full potential of everything that Microsoft had to offer. As a pure play Microsoft partner with a team of dedicated UK engineers, from app innovations, engineers that know of Proco, Loco, NoCo, to data and AI, from Azure to security, modern work, SharePoint. We cover a wide range of knowledge and expertise to support our clients. And on top of all, we have ongoing managed services. So throughout the next 25 minutes, we're going to be just focusing on Microsoft Fabric. We're eager to share our knowledge and insight on this particular field. And equally, we're also excited to hear some potential thoughts and insight and questions at the end of our session today. So without further ado, let me pass you guys over to my colleague, Luke Collins.
Brilliant. Cheers, Johnny. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're all well. And yeah, firstly, thank you for joining us today. So really, this is a brief overview of Fabric. As Johnny said, we've only got sort of 20 minutes or so. So we obviously won't be going too in depth or showing any technical demos, but really it's about, obviously, when Fabric launched, there was a lot of fanfare among sort of data professionals and even wider, and we see it straight away in our client base, sort of people saying, when can we use Fabric? So really, this is an overview of Fabric and sort of where it is currently, and really answering that really important question at the end on should we be using Fabric just yet. So as a quick intro to myself, so yeah, I'm Luke. I'm the technology delivery manager in the data and AI practice as part of the Transferity Group. So I've spent about 12 years in the data space, both from sort of an end user point of view through to consultancy, and now in the technology delivery manager role that I'm in currently. So really, what we want you to leave, the aim of today's session is really that you leave with an idea of what is Fabric, what comprises Fabric, sort of how does it compare against some of its rivals out there, like Databricks and Snowflake, and obviously Synapse, which it's closely aligned with, and also maybe a bit of sort of food for thought in terms of where does Fabric sit in terms of your data strategy. We're big believers at Transferity and in the data and AI space to really let the data strategy inform the technology selection. It's not always about putting in the latest and greatest. It's about putting in the technical solution that really works for the business, and obviously business requirements and business users really helping drive that data strategy forward. So yeah, we'll crack on and go into the first aspect, which is really a Fabric 101. So obviously, yeah, like I said, it launched to much fanfare, but really, what is Fabric? So it consists of some core components, really. So its architecture, it's being aimed at being a software as a solution sort of proposition. So cloud-based, accessed through the Power BI portal that we all sort of know and love. So it's obviously that familiar feel already straight off the bat. And it's effectively a collection of experiences that gives basically end users and data professionals access to what they're deeming as experiences. And those experiences range from data engineering activities through the likes of Data Factory, all the way through to some advanced analytics and visualizations through the likes of Power BI. You can see down the right-hand side there with the experiences, obviously borrowing a lot of the approaches and sort of platform and technology from the Azure Synapse Analytics workspace at the moment. I think its real big differentiator is obviously it's bringing all of that under one umbrella. I think Fabric can be sort of seen as an umbrella over existing technology, but what it's really doing is putting OneLake at the sort of the center of that technology. It's really going to be the bedrock of what Fabric sits on, and the idea of OneLake is really a OneDrive for data. The idea being that any data that's being interacted with, whether it's through some advanced analytics, AI, ML, or whether it's visualization through Power BI, will all come from that central repository of data, which is being coined as OneLake. And it's being built on an open source Delta Lake structure from sort of first principles. So it's based on the Data Lake Gen 2 storage underneath, but it's really taking that sort of Delta Lake and Delta Parquet file sort of approach, that what we would coin a modern data architecture, really to the extreme, and having it baked in from day one, really. I've included this overview here, which I think really shows OneLake being the bedrock of the whole solution, really. That you can see, obviously, everything sits upon that OneLake sort of platform. Obviously, it being a SaaS-based solution, the compute is obviously the sort of detailed compute around spinning up Spark pools, etc. from Synapse is really gone. It's sort of click of a button and away you go. Again, I think a real sort of indication to how Microsoft are moving into that, a bit like they did with Power BI. Power BI obviously put data visualization and most recently some sort of data engineering activities at people's fingertips. And I think this is another step in that direction, that really it's opening up that data engineering, visualization, analytics sort of world to all end users, not just data professionals. And you can see obviously the experiences listed across the top as well. I think it's just a case that those are just going to grow and grow over time. You can see some more sort of advanced AI and ML capabilities being added in there as individual experiences. And we all know that obviously Power BI develops each month with its frequent updates. So I think it's just going to be a case of those experiences there at the moment are sort of a starter for 10, really, and they're just going to mature over time and obviously become a much more verbose set of experiences as we move forward. So obviously that's all well and good, but really we need to assess how Fabric fits in versus what's out there at the moment. We obviously know Fabric is in preview at the moment. So really, how does it compare to the other sort of modern data platforms that are out there? Obviously, there's a number of key players in that space, and we'll start with the obvious one, which is Azure Synapse Analytics. It's not surprising that obviously Fabric is being positioned as a software as a service proposition, given where Power BI is, and it's often the natural progression for a PaaS solution that gets adopted to become a SaaS solution, so that it's easier for other users that might not be in that space to adopt as well. You can see that obviously we mentioned previously that it's going to be a lake-centric design from day one with the OneLake approach versus the Data Lake Gen 2 storage that obviously exists in Azure at the moment. In reality, OneLake lives on top of that storage, but really does help give that sort of, they're describing it as a OneDrive sort of feel. So you can go and create shortcuts to data in there that would just appear like they would on your Windows desktop, for example, in your Windows Explorer, where you can go and drag and drop files around, for example. So again, making it really accessible for people to interact with. And again, really helping cement that OneLake, that one approach, that central repository of data. Often we hear that obviously the whole idea around BI and data programs is often that we really need a single point of truth. And as soon as people find it hard to get data into a system, that's when stuff starts to get bypassed. So I think OneLake is obviously being designed from first principles to overcome those barriers. And actually it's a case of, well, look, just drag and drop your file here and away you go, removing those barriers of entry. As mentioned before, it's obviously going to be hosted in sort of the Power BI workspace, which I'm sure some of you have already seen has started to get slight rebrands in terms of when reports load. you start to see the Fabric logo, for example, versus the Synapse Studio, which is obviously a very much dedicated UI in the Azure portal for sort of for building and creating pipelines, etc. Obviously, Fabric is being coined as that all-in-one platform, that one-stop shop for data. And like I said earlier, a bit of an umbrella across existing technology. Whereas Synapse is obviously very good at what it does and is still very much part of that modern data platform. That's obviously still very much sort of focused on data warehousing, with the likes of Power BI sitting on top as an additional supplement to fulfill the visualization part, for example, or the likes of Azure Machine Learning Studio sitting alongside it to do some of those more advanced data science esque analytics. As we could see from the experiences, the names of the experiences around the Synapse side of things, you can see it replicates the majority of Synapse analytics, but there are a few exceptions in terms of like Synapse links, for example. So yeah, there's going to be, I don't think we're there yet because obviously it's still in preview, but I think once it goes sort of general availability, there'll need to be an assessment of what components didn't carry over from Synapse. And I'm sure, well, we've already seen that Fabric is undergoing sort of monthly releases. I'm sure it will follow a similar cycle to Power BI. So I'm sure it's only a matter of time that those that are currently missing get carried across, or there's an alternative to them. Obviously, Synapse has been around for a few years now, and obviously is a very mature set of sort of core components that you can readily deliver a sort of modern Delta Lake medallion architecture on. They differ pricing wise, sort of pricing approach though. So Synapse Analytics is obviously pay for what you use, spin up some resource, use it for X amount of time. You're going to pay for what you've used, and obviously when it's dormant, you're only paying for storage, which is peanuts anyway. And then so Fabric is sort of aligning itself with Power BI really, and that sort of capacity. So obviously in Power BI at the moment, you've got that premium capacity approach. It's going to be the similar one for Fabric as well, where it's a shared capacity across the tenant / workspace, and effectively that capacity is there to be used by all of those experiences that we looked at a few seconds ago. Obviously, there's some advantages and disadvantages to both, but I think it makes sense that it's going to be aligning to an approach that is pretty simple to understand and obviously quite easy to then cost, because the capacity costs X amount per month. There's no sort of ambiguity around actually we're going to have increased workloads this month, for example, that you might have on the Synapse side of things. I think Fabric is certainly, and Microsoft even said themselves, is definitely the natural successor for Synapse in the future. But I think we don't want anybody to be alarmed that obviously if you've already invested or you're thinking about investing in a Synapse-based sort of solution, it definitely remains part of that modern data platform. And Microsoft have even come out and said themselves that it's a case of years rather than months or weeks for Synapse to be fully integrated into Fabric. So we don't expect it to go anywhere overnight, and you'd hope that all of that functionality would be available then in Fabric once it was ready to be the sort of successor to it, and maybe some really neat sort of migration paths and tools as well, which obviously don't currently exist with it being in preview. I think the big point as well, obviously you've got the OneLake trying to do that whole data collaboration piece. You've got the SaaS approach trying to make it accessible to everyone, but also when Fabric was announced, there was obviously much talk about Copilot and sort of AI and ML being baked into basically every Microsoft service and product that's out there, and Fabric's no different. So we're going to see the likes of Copilot baked into Power BI, for example, and you can see it becoming sort of ingrained within Fabric and being an everyday part of that sort of AI experience that obviously a lot of people are excited for. Whereas Synapse Analytics, obviously it's certainly possible, but you would be a sort of separate solution using Azure's Machine Learning Studio service. So that's Synapse Analytics versus Fabric really, and like I said, they are very much the same thing. Obviously, I think with Fabric adding those additional benefits around that SaaS approach, capacity pricing, and also the OneLake approach as well. So moving on to Databricks, obviously Databricks is very much part of Microsoft's sort of modern data platform, and they even put out sort of modern design patterns using Databricks as the sort of the engine to drive your data lake and your lakehouse approach sort of thing. So this is much closer in terms of their approach. I think the biggest difference, obviously, Databricks is still very much a PaaS, a platform as a service approach. Obviously, the storage, the compute, and the actual workloads are still very much separated. But going back to that diagram, you can see Fabric is all under that one umbrella, where actually it's all ingrained, and it's again a one-stop shop to do everything data related that you need to. Obviously, Databricks is multi-platform, works across the sort of three major cloud providers, whereas obviously Fabric is going to be obviously Microsoft and Azure specific, both lake-centric approaches. Obviously, Databricks was heavily sort of influential in that lakehouse and lake-centric approach, and yeah, I think Fabric are obviously just leveraging all of the hard work that's been done in terms of us better understanding how that works in both Databricks and also Synapse as well. And again, Databricks being a pay-as-you-go, they've got their concept of a Databrick unit. So not quite as clear as I buy this capacity and this is what I spend. They also have a committed use approach as well, but yeah, not quite as clear as the capacity pricing approach that Fabric's taking. And I think a big one really is that, again, that collection of experiences featuring Power BI. Obviously, it's the premier visualization tool out there at the moment. It's hard to really beat Power BI in terms of when it goes sort of head to head with other visualization tools. But obviously Databricks has a rudimentary sort of visualization tool in its workbooks, but to really get sort of enterprise level dashboards, you would need to look at putting in something like Power BI as an additional tool to sit on your data lakehouse. And again, going on to the AI and ML component, really, we know that it's going to be baked in from day one on the Fabric approach, whereas Databricks has got its sort of ML extension, which is really using sort of third-party side of things to sort of leverage that machine learning and AI workloads in Databricks. So finally, sort of obviously we've done a couple of SaaS versus PaaS, but there is obviously the Snowflake, which is another one that we commonly come across when people are trying to decide what data platform should really feed their data strategy and their business. So obviously Fabric is SaaS, and also Snowflake is SaaS in itself. So like Databricks, obviously Snowflake can work across the major cloud providers. They really differ, where Fabric is obviously a lake-centric design from day dot, whereas Snowflake, even though it's made strides into that sort of data lake house and Delta Lake approach, really its primary focus and use was really a more traditional sort of data warehousing approach. Again, Snowflake uses its own sort of proprietary credit system, so again, a little bit harder to get visibility of costs on, and they've also got levels of pricing plans as well, which give you access to various features and SLAs. So again, I think Fabric's definitely doing the right thing in terms of adopting that Power BI pricing approach, because it's just so easy to understand. Again, you've got the Titan that is Power BI versus Snowsight. So again, it's whether you put all of your eggs in the Snowflake basket, or you decide to go for Fabric and utilize Power BI, where obviously we know how many integrations Power BI can go out to, and obviously constantly developing as well. And then again, AI and ML is being a component of every service in the modern day. So not surprising that Snowflake has got its own AI and ML component as well baked in. So that's really Fabric versus what you would class as sort of its main three competitors, I think, in terms of, we know that it's going to be a successor to Synapse at some point, but also there's obviously the Databricks question and the Snowflake one as well, which is often what our clients and customers have in that sort of initial engagement in terms of which direction should we be going in. But I think Fabric obviously solves a lot of those issues of disjointed services and needing other services and products to supplement it, like around visualization, for example. That umbrella approach, I think, is going to be really powerful in terms of that. again, that one-stop shop for all things data, from data engineering all the way through to visualization and data science, really. So that's obviously all well and good, but where is Fabric at the moment? So and almost like I said at the beginning of the presentation, what is the most important question in terms of should we start using Fabric in anger for sort of production workloads? And I think that really breaks down to sort of four key areas, really. The first one, as mentioned earlier, it's still in public preview. So whilst it's in public preview, you're subject to preview functionality, availability, and supportability as well, which I think, yeah, would obviously be a red flag for trying to push production workloads into it just yet. And obviously, yeah, the small caveat of it's subject to modifications before release as well, which I think, again, another red flag in terms of using it for a production system just yet. Certainly, and there's obviously no word yet on when it's going to go to general availability at the moment. So as soon as we know that, I'm sure, yeah, the lines will light up in terms of people sort of planning on where Fabric fits into their wider data strategy. Licensing and cost as well. So we've mentioned a couple of times that obviously it's being aligned with the Power BI approach, which is great. It's very simple to understand. So the concept of a free, pro, and that capacity side of things as well. At the moment, the capacity is going to be sort of pay-as-you-go approach initially, but there are going to be a pay monthly approach, but there are going to be reservations as well, which are to be confirmed. So you can say, okay, we're going to have this capacity for 1 year, and obviously you'll make savings, a bit like the reservations that already exist on the Azure side of things. Also, there's been no word around OneLake pricing either. The fact that it's based on Data Lake Gen 2 storage, I can't imagine it will be too far away from the pricing that we already see in Azure. But yeah, just another one that we don't quite know what it's going to cost to store things just yet. And just a note as well that preview usage of Fabric. So if you've got capacity already, any usage against that wouldn't be charged, and that was extended on the 1st of August to the 1st of October. So yeah, want to keep an eye out on sort of next week, beginning of October, to see if there's any further announcements on whether that influences general availability, for example. We just don't quite know yet. And I think the real big factor is OneLake. Yeah, seen it described as a data oasis and sort of helping that collaboration and seamless integration, which yeah, I'm sure the data professionals amongst us will know the heartache and headaches that we get with data being in disparate systems all over the place and striving for that single point of truth. I think yeah, OneLake to rule them all really is the approach, and I'm certainly for it. I think it's going to be a great way to really get other business users outside of the data space on board, that actually pushing data into this system is really simple. And yeah, like I said, it's obviously going to power multiple analytic engines as well. So from your data engineering through to your modeling, to your visualization, through to your analytics, it's all going to come from one source. So is it Fabric time? We don't think it is yet, I'm afraid, not for production workloads, because of the things that we've just discussed. It being in preview being really the biggest one. We would personally wait for general availability and costings to be confirmed, so that you can be sure on what it can achieve on day one, and obviously what it's going to cost you as well as being your sort of data platform. Like I said, we're going to expect frequent monthly updates. So I think it's going to be a rapidly changing space. Something that isn't supported 1 month could well be supported the next. So I think it's going to be one to really keep an eye on moving forward in terms of where the product is and the functionality that it can deliver. And also, there's a question mark in terms of the value in upgrading and migrating to Fabric at the moment. We've not got full visibility of its power as yet. It promises to be a really powerful data platform, but obviously until it becomes generally available and starts to get those frequent updates, we can't be sure on that big question mark there. And I think, just to reiterate, Synapse is still very much the recommended approach by us. If you're looking for a modern data lake, Delta Lake, sort of medallion approach, then yeah, Synapse is the way to go in our eyes for now, until Fabric can fulfill all of that and really become the successor that we know the roadmap is obviously indicating. Brilliant. I appreciate, obviously appreciate all of your time, and appreciate that was a very quick overview of Fabric. As you can see, there's obviously a whole array of stuff to go into. We could be here for days talking about the nuances of Fabric versus some of its competitors, and obviously what some of the experiences and stuff are going to look like on day one. But Mary's just going to put a poll out into the chat now. So if you'd like to have a further discussion with us in terms of not necessarily just Fabric, but where the Azure data platform fits into your data strategy, then yeah, please reach out and we'd be more than happy to do some discovery sessions with you. And finally, moving on to if there's any questions for anyone. Actually,
Mary just messaged me offline. The poll isn't working at the minute, so if anybody on this call right now that has any questions, feel free to pop it into the chat now, so that Luke and I can look into it and answer it one by one. It's always this awkwardness. It's like, waiting for some of the questions.
First one comes in and okay, I think we've got I don't think they're coming through in the Q&A, they're coming through in the chat, I think.
Yeah. Do you mind reading that out so that everybody
I thought I'd just see one pop up saying, oh yeah, for a next presentation, is it possible to show us a use case with a practical example? Yeah, sure. I think obviously this was a very short, condensed webinar in obviously only the 30 minutes. So yeah, we'd probably do a longer form, maybe an hour long, to really go into maybe a use case with a practical demo as well. Andrew.
I think, Andrew, if you're interested, something that you like to get to know of it sooner, feel free to leave your details with us. What I'll do is Luke and I can assign some time to have an offline chat with you, and perhaps bring on anything that readily available to share with you sooner than the next presentation.
Yeah, thank you. That'd be great. Who would I need to email that to?
We'll take a note, and what we'll do, we'll reach out to you privately so that you've got a point of contact within a data and AI team.
Perfect. Thank you. That's great.
That's all right.
Excellent. I think we've got one probably final question from Mark. So for those that have looked at using Fabric for production workloads, what is your recommendation around the lack of private endpoint support? And then he's obviously including an article there as well. And I think it goes back to our recommendation that we probably wouldn't be advising to use it for production workloads just yet. I think obviously you've got the likes of Synapse there that's much more mature in terms of its implementation and its use cases as well. So I think it's definitely one to wait for general availability, and when we get some visibility of what that roadmap is going to look like in terms of how those experiences are going to develop moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, we have got a number of conversations going at the minute. Is being a team of experts that's trying to share knowledge. At the minute, a lot of our conversations is leaning more towards the POC, like a proof of concept, ideation. So at this moment of time, feel free to look into it a bit more. If you've got a question, reach out to us. We'll try our best to answer it, even during this preview time. We're here to support you guys when it comes to thought leadership, thinking of how we're going to be utilizing this for your business.
Yeah, I think it goes back to that original point at the start that we're big believers in letting the data strategy lead the technology choice. So yeah, obviously if Fabric is the right fit for your data strategy, then it's when it's available and can do everything that we think it can, then yeah, sure, it's going to be definitely the sort of front runner in terms of what we would be choosing to implement. But until those question marks are answered, yeah, I'm afraid it's a Synapse approach for now. Cool. Well, yeah, appreciate we've obviously gone a couple of minutes over. So yeah, I'd just like to say thanks for all your time, and hope you have a good rest of the day. And yeah, hopefully that was insightful.
Wonderful.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks very much, guys. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.